Friends, welcome back. This is Dr. Kamath again, and we are discussing this case study of the male child who died within 1 month of birth, a case of birth hypoxia. Okay, so as we jump back into this second part, uh, the last part ended with the refrain that we would like to localize where the disease began. Where did the pathogenesis happen? Is there a way to actually pinpoint the exact location and in what manner the disease would have happened? Surely, in the D1 and the D9 analysis from the first part, we have arrived at the whole list of planets, the plethora of planets, and the main planets affected. Okay, now let's look at this in a little bit greater detail. But before that, uh, let me again go to the D1 and D9 because I would like to look at the chart from the perspective of the moon position in D1 and D9 both. So we have already analyzed, you have in front of you now the D1 and the D9 chart, right, in the slide. Now we have already analyzed the chart from the perspective of the Lagna. So we've looked at 6, 8, 12 analysis from the Lagna. We've looked at Marak positions, we have looked at Badhakesh and all those things. Correct? Now let us look at it from the moon's perspective. Now here in the Lagna Kundali, moon is in the 4th house in Scorpio, as we have already seen. Uh, it is with Jupiter in Scorpio in the 4th house. Now, if we take the moon as the basis of the moon as the ascendant, where the ascendant is. So if we start our analysis from the moon, then let's look at what happens. Okay, so typically you have the Lagnesh here. The Lagnesh or the fourth lord here would be Mars, which is in the 7th position from the moon. Okay, so again a Marak position. You have the 6th lord. Okay, which would be again Mars. Okay, which is, as we already said, in the 7th house from the moon. Okay, um, the 8th lord is Mercury. Okay, which is Gemini here. Gemini is in the 8th house from the moon, and you have Mercury in the 4th house from the moon, which is in the 7th house of the D1 Kundali. Now the uh, square position of the moon and Mercury is not exactly um, uh, very auspicious. It indicates a kind of a instability because Mercury is restless, is quicksilver. We have this phrase of the mercurial mind, for example, and moon is the sthai bhav of the mind. So moon Mercury in a square position is certainly not very good. Um, Again, if you look at the second house from the moon, you have Saturn, Pluto, and Ketu there. So your Rahu Ketu axis is running from the second house to the 8th house, from the Marak to the Ashtam Sthan. So all in all, not good. Again, the 12th house from the moon is Libra here. So you have Venus as Lord of Libra, which is in the 7th house in Aquarius, or the 4th house from the moon. Okay. Now, so this is the analysis from the perspective of the birth chart and taking the moon as the center point. Now let's go to the Navamsh. Now, couple of things. Basically, I would like to talk about the 64th Navamsh, which is basically the lord of the house, fourth from the moon. So here, if you look at that again, that is Aries here, and in the D9 chart, and the lord of Aries being Mars. So Mars, again, as we know, is the Badhakesh of this chart. And already we have looked at those discussions in the earlier part. Now with this background, I am in a position to really go to the heart of the matter, as it were, and look at why are we really studying this case from the medical astrological perspective. What is it that the Kundali can tell us about how the disease was actually created? Where did the disease begin? Can we fathom from the Kundali analysis how and where the disease began? and what were the processes involved in the disease. Now, all this is possible from basically the detailed analysis of the D3 chart, or as it is called, the Dreshkansha analysis or the D3 chart. So I am now changing the slide. So you have in front of you here the D3 chart, a single kundali in front of you. So you can appreciate that this kundali is quite in detail, because uh, if we want to really localize where the disease is happening, let's say, we need to be precise with the placement of the planets. It is not enough to know that Sun is in the fourth house, but it will be important to know where exactly within the fourth house in the D3 Sun is placed. Correct? So quickly let me also refresh your understanding. Each of the houses of the D1 is divided into three parts, which are called the Drekana or the decanates. And typically, if let's say you have the Aries sign, you will find the decanates or the Drekana as Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So on and so forth. These principles will apply to all the signs. So therefore, if you will notice here that the certain planets obviously have changed their positions from the D1. Now let us analyze this D3 chart in detail. Okay. Now the nakshatras which are mentioned here, for example, are the nakshatras inside of the D3 chart. So we are trying to pinpoint the pathology in this manner. Okay. Uh, so let's start. Now the Lagnesh here, the Lagna is Mesh. The Lagnesh, now the Lagna Bindu or the Lagna Nakshatra is Ashwini. Point to note. It's a Ketu Nakshatra, correct? And you will notice that Ketu is straight in the fifth house. So that it indicates a malady to the head. Now here number 1 or Mesh would indicate the head region of the person. So it would indicate some kind of a malady, some kind of a disturbance or a problem with respect to the head area. And we obviously know what that is, but we will come to that a little later. Now, the Lagnesh is Mangal. Mangal as in Mars in the second house. It is in Kritika here. Now, Kritika, the Lord is Sun. Sun happens to be the Lagnesh of the main D1 Kundali. So, Sun is very important. So, we are now going to take basically bring our attention to the Sun, and we are going to bring our attention to also some of the other planets involved. So our journey into the pathogenesis begins from the Lagnesh of the D1, which is the Sun. Now Sun here is in the fourth house in Cancer, and Sun is in the nakshatra Pushya. Sun and Moon are almost conjunct. Both of them are conjunct, almost conjunct. So it's like just 1 degree or 1.5 degrees separated from each other, both in the nakshatra Pushya. Pushya's lord being Saturn. So Sun and Moon, number 1, are totally decompensated. So you have the fire element and the water element, totally destroying each other. The fire has been totally, extinguished because of the water. The water has been rendered useless because of the fire in its close proximity. And you will recollect that Saturn was the lord of the sixth house in the Lagna Kundali. Okay, so we had Leo ascendant, so the sixth house was Capricorn, so lord of sixth was Saturn. So this is connected to, so both of them are totally decompensated. Now Sun also indicates, Sun and Moon could indicate father and mother. So both father and mother being involved in the pathology, in the sense of this child having inherited some kind of a karma from the parents, and we are going to look at the D12 chart for that. Sun and Moon could mean oxygen and brain. Okay, oxygen and the mind. So Sun is the life giving aspect, life giving principle. Moon is the mind or the brain here in this case. So it also indicates that affection. Now if you notice here, so this is one part. Now where is this Sun Moon affliction happening? It is happening in the early part of the Karka Rashi here. It is in the early first 6 degrees of Karka Rashi. Now Gemini and Cancer both make up the chest cavity. Okay, the upper chest cavity would be Gemini, maybe the upper lobe of the lung and the initial air pipe. But the main part of the lung, the chest cavity will be Cancer, including the heart. And at the base of the heart is where the Leo aspect also starts. So there is a whole overlap between Cancer and Gemini and Cancer in the chest cavity. So this is in the upper part of the chest cavity. So the oxygen supply was cut off in the upper part of the chest cavity. It shows that there was a block, or if that the lungs were not mature enough, because the major upper lobe receives the major let's say air from the primary bronchus in both the lungs. So that's where the pathology started, in the upper part of the lung. So this is a point to be noted. Second point is now most important. Ashtamesh in the D1, if you will recollect, is Guru. And Guru was Gandanta in D1 also. But here, more importantly, the actual position of Guru in the Drikkana is in Cancer, and it is in Gandanta position in Cancer. It is 29 degrees 36 minutes of Ashlesha. So you can imagine it is grazing Magha. So this indicates the base of the lung. This indicates the base of the lung area, number one. Now Ashlesha Nakshatra, okay, what is the Nakshatra Swami of Ashlesha? It is Mercury. Okay, so that is one. And secondly, Nakshatra Devata, Sarpa. Remember Sarpa? So there is a Sarpa dosh here. There is a Sarpa dosh which we will see amply in further slides in terms of the karmic causation of this problem in this child. Okay, and this is towards the base of the brain. Now look here, this is a part of the watery triad. So 4th house here is Karka, 8th house is Scorpio, 12th house is Pisces. So this 4, 8, 12 is the watery triad. Okay, and you have Jupiter in an expansionary role at the bottom of the chest, near the bottom of the chest, acting there in Ashlesha. So this indicates certainly accumulation of water and some kind of a growth of water. So more like pulmonary edema, that kind of a thing which we already seen this. We have already seen the case of this patient in the earlier presentation, right? So this is what it indicates here. Now the Lagna in the D1 here is the 5th house, and no wonder, because the 5th house here you have Saturn, Pluto, Ketu in the 5th house, certainly indicating the that there would be problems with respect to the one is it has got a causation from the past life, and also it has got a connection with the vital force or the sun or even the heart here. Okay, heart would have failed in this case. The child's heart would have failed eventually, because of the pneumonia and the water in the lungs. There would have been a back pressure and heart failure eventually. Look here, Ketu is in the nakshatra Uttar Falguni. Okay, Uttar Falguni Lord is Sun. So Ketu is in Sun's nakshatra. Okay, so that is one kind of a indication. Now, if you see here, Saturn is in Purva Falguni. Purva Falguni is Venus's nakshatra. Now, Venus, as we have already said, in this case is in the 11th house, and it is in Shatabhishak. Venus is in Rahu's nakshatra, and you have Rahu there in the 11th house, which is in Purva Bhadrapada, which is Jupiter's nakshatra. So you see what is happening is the malefic, the Jupiter becomes much more malefic, not only because it is in Sarpa Drikkana in the Cancer, it is in Gandanta number 2, and number 3 also it is, it has got the support from or it is having this malefic connection with Rahu, with which it has a Shadashtak Yoga also. Okay, so Rahu Ketu axis is certainly passing. So Rahu is with Venus being Trutiyesh and therefore connected with longevity. Ketu is with Saturn, which is Rogesh or Shashtesh, connected with the disease. So, and it's very clear. The nakshatra analysis also has made it very clear. Now, Mercury I would like to speak very briefly before we move on. Mercury here is in Chitra, correct? So here you just focus on the you see, Mercury will not have a localization. Mercury is more to do with the phenomenon of convulsion. So we will not localize Mercury. We'll just look at Mercury's nakshatra placement. Chitra being a Mars nakshatra. Okay, and you see Mars and Mercury don't have a very good connection. They have a Shadashtak Yoga here. Now remember, Mars was Badhakesh and Mercury was Marakesh in the D1 chart, as in Dvitiyesh. Okay, so this is a brief analysis of the Drekkana chart, or the Dreshkansha chart as we call it. And here we can localize, we can clearly, number one, explain the pathogenesis and actually exactly what went wrong, localize the disease to the upper chest and the lower chest, and then what happened, and eventually all this affected the brain, okay, because the sun was affected. And here the first house, which is the head, again you find that it has the connection with the Rahu Ketu axis. So therefore this whole disease will affect the head. Okay, so this is a brief analysis of the D3. Now I have the next slide which sort of summarizes this, but we really don't need to. We already seen this. And basically Cancer being a Chara Rashi as well as watery. So you will find that it was kind of fast developing sort of thing. Okay, so with this now, I would like to now bring out the karmic nature of this disease a little bit more explicitly, and take support from certain relevant Varga charts. Okay, so here I am going to use two Varga charts in the next slide. The first one will be the D12, which is the Dwadashansh chart, which indicates how the parental influence has acted from the previous, let's say, generation into this child. Okay, and we can see some interesting things there. And also I am going to be using what is called as the D6 chart, the Shashtansha. This is not Shashti Ansha, this is Shashtansha. This is the D6 chart. This is not regularly used as a part of the Shodasha Varga of the Parashari analysis, but it is certainly a divisional chart which I believe is of good use in specific when you are trying to analyze the 6th house in greater detail. So with this, let's look at these two slides, or these two charts, sorry. Now you see in front of you D12 as well as D6. Let's look at the D12 first. Now the D12 is remarkably similar to the D3, because you see that the Lagna is Vargottam in both, because even in D3 it was Mesh Lagna, here also it is Mesh Lagna. Okay, but then beyond that there are less similarities. Of course, one more similarity is that Sun and Moon are together, and again in Ashlesha. So this indicates the Sarpa dosha which we spoke about. Ashlesha, the Devata is Sarpa. There is a Sarpa dosha in the watery sign. So this is something to do with the family, some ancestors, something about Sarpa dosha. Now in the 8th house you see here Ketu, Pluto and Neptune. Now Ketu in the 8th house, which means obviously Rahu in the 2nd house. The Rahu Ketu axis is not in a good empowering position here. Obviously it will bring disease, distress through the 2nd house, and it will try to reduce the longevity through the 8th house. Now point to note here is that two of the outermost planets are, as in Pluto and Neptune, are in the 8th house. Now while they may not have a direct impact on one generation, this perhaps indicates some kind of a generational aspect, like a overall Kulakshaya kind of a situation over maybe few generations or something like that. So this is just a moot point, but I just thought it needed to be mentioned. Now you notice a lot of in the 7th house here, you notice three planets or three grahas or three celestial influences are concentrated around the nakshatra Vishakha. Vishakha being a Jupiter's nakshatra, you have Jupiter in Vishakha, you have Mercury in Vishakha, okay, and you have Gulika also in Vishakha. Okay, so Gulika certainly along with Guru is not a good thing, because Gulika is Shani Putra, very malefic. Okay, now you will recollect that Mercury in the D1 chart was in the nakshatra Purva Bhadrapada, okay, which is basically, the nakshatra Swami would be Guru or Jupiter, and the nakshatra Devata Ajay Ekapada. So again you see Mercury here again is in the Guru's nakshatra. So Guru Mercury are kind of accomplices, and Guru being badly affected, as we already know, along with the Sun Moon here. So this is one interesting observation to make here. Okay, now I shift my attention to the D6 chart, the one on the right side of the screen that you see. Okay, now here, there's not much to see here, of course, but the most important thing is that the Ashtamesh, which is Guru, here is again in the Ashtam Sthana. Now the D6 Kundali is, the Lagna is Vargottam to the D1, so you have the same Leo Lagna here. So therefore D6 is, in the Ashtam Sthana, is the Pisces, and in this case Guru is in Pisces, Ashtamesh in Ashtam Sthan, again in absolute Gandanta. This is Guru in Revati, 29 degrees 12 minutes Revati. So grazing Ashwini in Gandanta. So this would indicate, and I am very interested in knowing the position of Saturn here, because Saturn is the original Shashtesh. So Saturn here is in Uttar Falguni, which is Sun's nakshatra. Okay, and Sun here is in Ketu's nakshatra, in Moola, in the 5th house. Okay, so this indicates Sun in Mool in the 5th house would indicate heart disease of some kind, or heart disease which is likely to develop because of, let's say, Rahu Ketu effect. Rahu Ketu both here are in the 2nd house in Chitra. Again in Malefic we say Kujavat Ketu and Shanivat Rahu. Shani is also there, and although Kuja or Mars is in the next house, again it is in Swati Nakshatra, which is Rahu's Nakshatra. So it is as good as the effect is similar. So you have Shanivat Rahu, Kujavat Ketu along with Shani and Kuja or Mangal together acting, in the 2nd house, so that is the whole sixth lord being Shani is in extremely evil company. So this should suffice. I mean, this will give us an idea about what's going on. Again, Venus is in the nakshatra of Kritika, again, so that the sun connection is again established there. So with this discussion about the D6, I think we have made the point. Okay, now before we actually go to the timing of the disease using the Dasha systems, I want to dig a little more deeper. The curiosity is certainly academic in nature. It is also something which cannot be resisted, because we have to look at the 5th house in greater detail. That is what I would like to think. The 5th house is the Putra Sthana. It is also the past life, the Sanchita, Sanchita and the Prarabdha Karma, the Purva Punyai. So any such massive calamity befalling a human being who did not survive his first month of life on earth would show some major issues in the 5th house, is what I think. Therefore, let's look at 2 more charts. I would like to look at a specific chart called D5, which is the Panchangsha, again which is seldom used like D6, but I think in this case we should look at the Panchangsha. And also I would like to look at the D60, which is the Shashti Ansha. So D60 basically is in which you divide each sign into 60 parts. So each each slice will be half a degree, and based on that, this indicates a certain generalized uh, past life or larger concerns. Okay, and it has a very complex interpretative system, so I will come to that a little later. So before that, let's now go change the slides. Now in front of you, you have here, as I just mentioned, you have the D5, the panchangsha, and you have the D60, the shashti ansha in front of you. Now let's focus our attention on D5. Now the fifth lord in the Janma Kundali, okay, was Guru, correct? Because we had Leo Lagna, and therefore Sagittarius was in the fifth house. So Guru. So where is the position of Guru here? Firstly, let us have a look at that. So Guru is in the eighth house. Okay, sorry, Guru is in the sixth house in this Kundali, and in the D5 Kundali here we have the Gemini Lagna. The H5 Lord in D1 Guru is in the sixth house here. Okay, so that has certainly something to talk about in terms of disease. Now the fifth house itself in this D5 needs to be looked at. You have Rahu, Ketu both in the fifth house, along with Shani, Saturn and Pluto. So you have Saturn, Rahu, Ketu and the outermost planet Pluto as well. Now Rahu Ketu axis or Rahu Ketu together in the fifth house with Saturn, and in which nakshatra are they? They are in the nakshatra Chitra, which is again a Mars nakshatra. So you have here three malefics, you have the entire Rahu Ketu axis together, Rahu Ketu both together. You have Saturn there, which is a serious malefic, and and all of these are in the nakshatra of a malefic Mars. Okay, in fact, and Saturn is in Libra, so it is exalted technically, but this exaltation will be very damaging in this case, because it is going to actually sharpen the maleficity of the planet here. Okay, so this is what the D5 chart tells us very briefly. Okay, and again Venus here is in Ashwini, in Aries. So you notice here that in many of the divisional charts we have seen that Venus, which is basically the third lord in the D1 chart connected with longevity, is in many occasions in a Ketu nakshatra. Okay, so this is something interesting to note. Okay, also Gulika here is with Sun very closely in the fourth house. Sun Gulika in the fourth house. Okay, so that indicates doesn't augur very well for the Sun, or in this case the heart also. Now the second chart on the right here is what we call the D60 chart. Now the D60 analysis is much more complicated, because each of the Shashti Anshas, as they are called, 1, 2, 3, 4, so till 60, all the Shashti Anshas are under the Adhipatya or lordship of various kinds of Vedic deities and sub-deities, and Kinnaras and Gandharvas and whatnot. So we will directly go to the analysis as we have discovered on the basis of looking at this software, what it tells us. Now I have changed the slide. Now you can see the Shashti Anshas here. Now the most important thing to note here, let us quickly, what is of importance here is the second Shashti Ansha, moon is in Sarpa. So the Sarpa malady, which we have seen amply in D12, particularly in terms of the inherited karmic baggage from the parents, we also see here in a great magnitude. Now Jupiter, we have said, is extremely malefic for this particular native. Jupiter is in Ghora Shashti Ansh, which is awful and violent. Now, considering the number of times that Jupiter is in absolute Gandanta, whether it is Revati Ashwini Gandanta, whether it is Jeshta Mula, or whether it is Ashlesha Maga, in all the divisional charts, it would appear to me that this individual is having some kind of a curse from a guru. This is actually suffering from a guru's curse from past life because of certain undesirable behavior, maybe, or some kind of a violence towards what the guru represents. So it would appear to me so. Again, even the other malefic Mangal is in Kurura Shashtyaunsh, which you can read here as pitiless, mischievous. Again, the Venus is again deceit, jugglery. So, Maya, Shashtyaunsh. Saturn is Kala Pravaka, the destructive fire. Saturn is the Shashteshir. Okay, so you see every Shashtansh is actually in trouble except for Sun and Mercury. Now, Sun here is Amruta, immortal nectar. The Sun is the only thing which is struggling hard to live. The child was alive because his son was trying to make him live by providing him the life-giving force. But it couldn't do that because of the other malefics, all the other influences, as we have seen, and its own position in the Kundali. It couldn't survive. But it was the sole standing soldier in this Shashtiyansh here. Okay, and Mercury is Saumya, is auspicious. Okay, so but Mercury takes the basically effect of the position or the planet or the nakshatra it is associated with. So we will not take the Mercury interpretation here in isolation. Now, this having said, again, kindly focus your attention on the elements table you see on top. You can see the excessiveness of the water element in this Kundali. It's literally like the water element is almost double practically the air element, or more than that. The earth element is very low. The earth element would indicate, that means the whole kaya, the tanu bhav was very weak. The fire element is also below the average line, and the water element is copious. So this is very obvious. This was a case of pulmonary edema we have already seen. So this is a confirmatory kind of a picture we get here, and this is where actually Ayurved and Jyotish connect together. With basically where the pancha mahabhutas are concerned. Finally, a quick consideration of the karakas, the seven Jaimini karakas, and from the perspective of the soul's purpose, what exactly did this soul want in this lifetime? What was it trying to do? And basically a little bit abstract, little bit metaphysical. If you look at this chart here, Atma Karaka is Guru. Atma Karaka is what the soul wanted, that soul's purpose. So, but then it is extremely cursed. Guru being malefic, badly placed, almost evil. So, the soul itself lost its purpose in a sense, even as it was born, in some sense. Then you have the Amatya Karaka, which is again the lord of the sixth house, which is Amatya Karaka. So basically you have the Jupiter and Saturn only, which were both highly, extremely badly affected in this case. Okay, and the only redeeming thing, even the Matru Karaka was moon here. Now moon, Matru Karaka, what is the mother? The mother is one who nourishes. Okay, here the mother was overwhelmed with the watery element. It was overwhelmed with the sun moon combustion. Okay, sun is the Pitru Karaka, but then again sun moon is badly fired together. Jnati Karaka here is Venus, which is again the connected to disease and longevity here. Okay, so if you see the Karaka system, you perhaps notice some correlation with what was happening with this child. Okay, now I'm coming to almost the penultimate or the last two slides of this presentation. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to actually time this and see what happened, when was this child born, which dashas were running, and do we see a clear correlation, because God does not play dice. If this child was so unlucky with respect to the planetary configurations that it inherited and the different data points that we have from the different divisional charts, then we will certainly find that the dashas will corroborate those planets. Now here, this slide, I have used two dashas. On the right side and on in front of you above is the Vimshottari. The left above is the Yogini. Now, in the Yogini, I have not used the Yogini names. So instead of Bhadrika and Ulka and Siddha and this thing we have directly used the planetary rulers names here in Yogini. Okay, Vimshottari, of course, we use the planetary names only. Now, if you look at the Vimshottari system, at the time of his birth, the birth was on 26th of March 2019. So at the time of his birth, Mercury, Sun, Ketu was running. Okay, so Mercury here is the Marakesh, Sun is the Lagnesh, correct? And Ketu was in the 5th house, right? So typically concerned with past life or karmic Rahu Ketu axis and all that. So this child was born during the Rahu Ketu or the Ketu axis, Ketu effect in Mercury, Sun, Ketu. Okay, so there was suffering. So Ketu also indicates suffering. So if the child was born into direct suffering, Ketu being the Pratyantar Dasha here. Okay, or the Bhukti. Now, after that, so let's look at the corresponding time of birth in the Yogini. In Yogini again, as we see here, coincidentally on the same day, on 20th of March, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter. Okay, so the child was born during Mercury, Venus, Jupiter. Mercury again we already know is the Marakesh. Venus is the is the Trutiyesh and concerned with longevity. And as we've seen, it has been affected already. And you have here Jupiter, which is Ashtamesh. So in the Ashtamesh, Marakesh, Ashtamesh Bhukti, the child was born. So it was already suffering because of the effects of Jupiter. So here when we see both the dashas, we actually see the undercurrents. So you see Ketu here, but then you see Jupiter here, you see Mercury, you see Sun and Venus. So you see that everything is collaborating. It is like a hierarchy of planets. Maybe some planet is a manager, the other is a junior manager, and they all collaborate and they produce the disease and the dysfunction. Now, the child passed away between the 7th and the 14th of April, 7th and the 15th of April. We don't know the exact date. So here, in any case, if you see the Vimshottari Dasha system, Mercury, Sun and Venus were running that time. Okay, so that is something to note. And maybe there was, if one analyzes deeper, if one goes into Sukshma Dasha and Prana Dasha, at the time of death, there could have been a Rahu Ketu Sukshma or Prana Dasha after Venus, but we are not analyzing that in here. Now, if you see the Yogini, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter only is running till 17th of April. So in the Ashtamesh Bhukti, the child was born and passed away. So this is the correlation of the dashas here. Now, I just want to mention briefly Mrityu Bhag. Now, Mrityu Bhag is a point in each Rashi, a degree which has been specified by the sages, who have defined or who have developed this whole science, that if a planet is exactly placed at that degree, within 1 degree of that point, then that planet is afflicted by what is called as Mrityu Bhag, which means it is likely to give some sort of a bodily distress to the native, which could even lead to death potentially, okay, or at least serious disease. Now here, technically, no planet is coming within 1 degree of the Mrityu Bhag point. However, the ascendant nakshatra, okay, the Lagna nakshatra, the nakshatra bindu of the Lagna is within 2 degrees and 42 minutes. So I do not know whether that counts, but I don't know, if one were to look at a sense of proportionality, it is certainly close to the Mrityu Bhag. So that's just to note. Okay, So with this, I come to the end of my case presentation. This has been quite a journey for me in this presentation, and I've tried to do something which I consider as, is kind of new and refreshing, and I've tried my best to myself understand what this chart is all about and try to convey to the listener of this presentation. Thank you so much. If you like my uh, lecture or case discussion, kindly please like the channel, please share the channel, and subscribe to Ursa Medica. Thank you so much. My name is Dr. Kamath, and I wish you all the best. Bye.